So we've done this calculation for the interest, INT. Now let's return to this bank, and we put in $1,000. We're getting 5% simple interest. How much money will you have after 2 years? To find the answer, we need to add the accumulated interest to the principal to get what we call the future value of the deposit. So that just means we just calculated this. It was 1,000 times 5%. For 2 years, that's 5% of 1,000 is 50. So in 2 years, that's 100. So we're getting an interest of 100. That's the INT. If we add that to what we put into the bank, the 1,000, we get what's called the future value, which is the 1,000 plus the 100, or $1,100. So the calculation for the future value is the present value plus the interest that we get. So we can write that here. And we have PV plus the interest, but we can rewrite what we already determined, how we determine the interest, which was PVRT. This was for the annual interest expression. And then we see that both of these terms have PV in them, so we could factor that out, and we'd be left with PV times 1 plus RT. PV times 1 plus RT here. So we can say the future value, FV, is PV plus 1 RT, where by R we mean the annual interest rate, and T is the time in years. Or we could do it this way. PV is 1 plus IN. So if we're not talking about annual rate, and we're not talking about number of years, but just interest per period and number of periods, then it looks like this. PV equals, FV equals PV times 1 plus IN. So for examples, suppose we had $5,000. We put it in the bank for 4 years, and we're getting 8% simple interest per year. We can use this formula. So it's 5,000. R is 8%, 0.08, and T is 4 years. Put those in there, and you get this number. So that's how much it would be, the future value would be, or how much it would be worth. The total amount due after 2 years is a loan. On a $10,000 loan, charging 1% simple interest per month, would be the present value 1 plus IN, because we're not doing it per year, we're doing the calculation per month. So the interest rate per month is 1%, 0.01, and it's 2 years, but the period, since we're quoting the interest rate per month, we have to quote the time, or N, in terms of months. So 2 years is 24 months. So we get this times this, and then times the present value like this. We get that. They say you can go back to this example, and instead of saying specifically for 4 years, you could leave everything else the same, but you could just put T there. So you get this, or you get this. So now we're thinking of the future value as a function of the time, or how it depends on the time, which is a linear function of time. We recognize this as linear. And the y-intercept, or the PV-intercept, the y-intercept, or the FV-intercept, is when the present value equals 5,000, because the y-intercept is the 5,000, and the slope is $400 per year. So that function looks like this. So as time increases, the future value increases like this. And this was the equation that we saw. If we graph it on an FVT curve, then it looks like this, looks like that straight line. Okay, let's take a look at this one. On December 2015, Radius Bank was paying this amount of interest, so a little bit more than 1%, on a savings account that had a balance of more than $2,500, or $2,500 or more. if the interest paid is as simple interest, if the interest is paid as simple interest, find the future value of $2,500 deposit after 6 years. And what is the total interest paid over the period? So to find the future value, we can use this formula. We put in PV equals 2,500. R is 1.1%. T is 6 years. We put that in there. We get that. Now if we want to find the interest is just the PVRT, just like we said. It's 25 times the interest rate times the number of years. That's $165. And we could have also calculated the interest as the future value minus the present value, right? Because that's the increase in of the present value to get to the future values just by way of interest. So it's the interest just the difference between the two. So that's also 165. Okay, one more example is a corporate bond. So basically this is like when a corporation acts like a bank, and that is you give them money and they'll give you interest on it over time. So they're issuing a 10-year bond paying an annual rate of 6.5%. If you buy $10,000 worth of bonds, how much interest will you earn every 6 months, and how much interest will you earn over the lifetime of the bonds? So to get the interest, 10,000, the interest rate, and a half a year, you're going to get $325 per half year. And to get over the lifetime of the year, the lifetime of the bond, or the 10-year life of the bond, it's going to be the 10,000 times the interest times 10 years, which is 6,500. So if you paid 10,000, your 10,000 will have turned into 16,500 at the end of 10 years.